everybody, welcome back to the QuestCast. It is I, Patch, your ever humble Dungeon Master, normally playing everybody else, but today playing podcast host. And we have a very special guest for this episode of the QuestCast. My dear friend, please introduce yourself.
Oh, hi, I'm Maddie. I'm everyone's favorite blue-haired Malkavian on this channel. Make some guest appearances and things like that, but, pop around on Phoenix Iwaki and, talk about books. That's probably what most people know. I'm either a blue-haired Malkavian or books.
Indeed. And if you have no idea what a blue Malkavian is, don't worry, we're going to get all up in that very, very soon. We have a lot to cover. It's going to be fun. It's going to be nerdy. It's going to be a good time. So let's start off at the very, very beginning because define beginning.
Yeah, beginning, because that's a long time ago.
It could well be. Aside from QJ, like your main creative output currently is your BookTube channel, Book Talk, and all things books, which is wonderful. I am an editor for your videos, which is really fun. Different kinds of editing for me to do, and I particularly enjoy it, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you for doing it, because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing in that aspect. I'm like, please. I was like, here.
You need the thing doing. I can do the thing.
Yeah, it's very vamp dad, vamp daughter kind of thing. It just works.
Indeed. So, I want to start off because with these, typically the idea is we start off by going through the creative journey. And for you specifically, I think, where did this love of the written word begin for you?
That was a long time ago. So this goes all the way back to elementary school. For us in the United States, we have our elementary school, which is typically anywhere from K through 6. Because I'm from a very small town, we are K through 6 at our elementary schools. Most people are K through 4, and then or K through 5, and then you have the middle school that's 6 through 8, and then the high school that goes up. But even when I was in elementary school at a kindergarten level, I was reading 3 or 4 grades ahead of what I should have been reading. So I remember reading, it was a chapter book that was on the Titanic. And you should know, I have the ADHD. I probably have my own little things, but I got so zoned in on the Titanic that I devoured everything I could get my hands on. We had weekly library trips. My mom was so surprised whenever I was reading this book. She's like, you shouldn't have this. Why is this in a kindergarten class? And it was because I found out later in 6th grade that I was gifted, which is your IQ's higher than what you should be, and your classes are not actually testing you the way that they should be. So I was in 6th grade. I was reading at a 12th grade English level by 6th grade, which is really funny because when I was growing up, Harry Potter released at the same time. When I was 11, the first Harry Potter book came out. I grew up in a very religious household. My grandfather was actually a pastor, and he was like, she can't read that. That's witchcraft and wizardry. That's against our religion, etc. My dad didn't care, so I'm sitting here with the first Harry Potter book under my bed with the covers pulled up and a flashlight that I kept up on my bunk bed. And I'm sitting here reading it, and he worked overnights, and he came in to check on me and my sister and make sure we were sleeping before he left. And he's like, what are you doing? Reading? What are you reading? Harry Potter? Don't let your mother catch you. Okay. And just went back. He's like, go to bed in 20 minutes. I'm like, okay. And he'd come back in and tell me, hey, turn the light out, go to bed. I'm like, okay. So even from then, it was, I've loved banned books. I've loved books I'm not supposed to have. I grew up with the dystopian Hunger Games, Divergent, all of that stuff whenever it was coming out. I followed Harry Potter until it came out. It took me forever to read the last one because I kept throwing the book across the room because I'm very invested. This is what I grew up with. So spoiler alert for those of you that have not read Harry Potter, when Dobby dies and Fred Weasley dies, the book got thrown and didn't get touched for probably 2-3 weeks. And then I'd pick it up and then I'd hit another death. And I'm like, nope. And I'd check it. I have dents in my childhood bedroom where my mom and dad are from that book because it was a hardback and it's 900 pages hitting the wall. My mom's like, what did you do? I threw the book. And then it got weird because then you have college, you don't get to read a lot, even though you're like an English major. And I remember I somehow ended up in a junior and senior class, and I wrote better than the juniors and seniors. I was a second semester freshman, setting the curve for the juniors and seniors. And the professor actually goes, "You're letting a freshman outwrite you." So I would charge them because they would want me to edit their papers. So I made money in college off of the juniors and seniors who needed this class to pass. And I'm editing their papers for them and proofreading. And I was like making anywhere from $50 to $100 a pop, depending on if it was a junior that could retake the class. They might not want to spend that much money. But a senior who wants to pass this class, they're going to spend the cash. So I was making money. And then I had Talon. So I stopped reading for a while. Then there were a couple different series where I would pick up The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, which is fractured fairy tales. So that was one of the first series that got me back into reading, along with Lee Bardugo's Six of Crows duology. And then life happened. And then it wasn't until like lockdown that I really got back into it. And I was like, okay, I miss this. I miss this piece of my nerdiness. I just want to read. And Talon loves to read. So I'm reading Percy Jackson now for the first time ever because that's what he likes. He never read Harry Potter. So he's reading Harry Potter. I'm reading Percy Jackson so that we can bond.
I have an amusing and somewhat traumatizing anecdote about the Harry Potter novels. So much like yourself, I grew up reading them as they were coming out. And then years later, my mum and dad had a clear out. And they got rid of a lot of my old books. Like, they sent the books to a charity shop. I found out a couple of years ago that the edition of books that I had were worth at least 10 grand each minimum. So, as you can imagine, I was a little bit pissed off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I still have some of the original hardbacks. I didn't get all of the hardbacks because whenever I was, like I said, Mom didn't let me get them. Like, it wasn't until probably Order of the Phoenix or Half-Blood that Mom finally like let up off of the super religious background and is like, okay, just read what you want. She's like, you know it's fake, right? I was like, of course, it's fiction. And at 11, I need something to challenge me. Like, everything that you're supposed to be reading at the 4th grade level is boring as hell whenever you can read something that actually picks your brain. And which is the same with Talon. Talon was reading The Hunger Games and Percy Jackson at 4th, 5th grade. Like, I can't keep books in that kid's hand. Once he gets into a series, he'll devour it until it's done, which is how I was. I was voracious. Like, you could not, I had so many trips to the library. Like, our school has the library. You go once a week, and I'm like, no, that's not going to cut it. So I would have like 5 books. They would let me check out 5 or 6 books when you're supposed to get maybe 2 or 3. And I'm like, I need more. I'm going to read all of this in a day or 2. And they were like, here you go.
It must be wonderful though, like as a mom, looking at Talon and seeing that same passion.
It is, because he gives me books that I don't think that I would, like, if it wasn't for him telling me, hey, you should read this. Because there's another one that he read, which is Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and I never read it. I never even heard of this until he was coming through. But the biggest thing with Talon is he's a teenage boy. He doesn't want to read about the girls. Like, he doesn't like some of the same books that I liked growing up, which is understandable. So trying to find books that actually fits his interest, where there's a male protagonist, and I'm like, I haven't read this book. And he'll read it, and he's like, Mom, you need to read this. That you would actually really like this. And I'm like, okay, cool. We'll do that. And that's how I talked him into reading Harry Potter, because he loves the movies. Like, he's watched all of the movies, but he never read the books. And I'm like, dude, you're missing out, because the books have so much stuff that's not in the movies.
So, obviously, that's a huge chunk of your creative background.
Yes.
Now, how did TTRPGs eventually come into this scene?
Okay, so I like to write. This is not going to be a good look for me, but I don't know if you know, there used to be an online role-playing community that like went off of Pro Boards and Envision Free and JSync, where you would have your RP partners and you would play a character. So from the time I was maybe 18, because I've always been introverted. Like, I don't like to go out and do things. So it was my way of making friends or getting into, I think my very first RP community was a Twilight RP in college. So, like, way back in the day. And then we moved into, like, more real life stuff where, like, you would develop a character, very similar to the TTRPG space, but or as a writer, like somebody that loves books, you're creating a character. And I'm not great at getting into a male perspective, which I know you've talked about, like how you mostly play female characters. Like, I can't do male characters very well. Like, every once in a while, mostly Dean Winchester. If I can channel or watch Supernatural, I'm good. I can play Dean, it's fine. Or I can play a douchebag guy that goes through the hero arc, like of realizing, hey, I done fucked up, like, let me fix this. I can play those kinds of guys, but I can't play like just the regular good old Joe. They've got to have something that's wrong with them that needs to be fixed or that they don't see as a good quality. Like, I don't know why, it just works that way. So up until those boards kind of shut down, everybody kind of moved away from them. I did that for years. And then lockdown happened, and I don't even remember how I got into it, but like, I got into a online community, which the first online community that I was a part of was not the best taste at TTRPG communities. The second one was also not the best TTRPG experience. The people, some of the people, are still people that we have in our community and that we talk to are very good friends of mine. And I've met some of my best friends through the TTRPG community, but it is a matter of sitting down and figuring out the right people. And you don't always recognize the good or the bad whenever you're initially getting into this space. Like, you think that everybody's going to be the same or everybody has their best interests, and that's just not the case. So in that process, the second community I was a part of, you actually were there and put out a roll call for Rodania. And then Bridget got casted, and Bridget and I have been friends since the first iteration of the TTRPG communities that we were a part of. So we just kind of followed, and then she got cast on Rodania, and I tuned in. And then I don't know why I didn't actually join the Discord for a while. It was like, last summer or a little bit before last summer that I ended up in the Discord, actually in the community instead of just watching Rodania. And then from there, it blossomed into this beautiful chaos that we have created together.
Sure did, yeah. And the stories we've told and the stories we have yet to tell. Like you say, I was in some of those communities as well, and it is interesting, like, thinking about, you know, going into that blind and only relying on what you see at face value. And it is tricky to navigate those spaces. You have to be quite careful. The one thing that I've tried to always pride QJ on is being safe and inclusive for everybody, no matter what. And yeah, I think we do pretty fucking well, if I don't say so myself.
You do a fantastic job, not just you, but like anybody that brings any kind of issue or says that somebody is making the situation feel unsafe or that it's not the best situation, whether it is you or the rest of the admin team or the mod team, we take any allegation or any concern very seriously. And you've always done that, even before you had the mod team and the admin team. Like, anytime any of us brought a situation to you, you were immediate, like, okay, let me do my research or let me confirm. You didn't just say, oh, nope, you're gone because somebody at my table said something. And that's the thing, is like, none of those previous communities went to the level that you did to make it safe. And that's one of the biggest reasons I stayed here, because you made me feel safe. This was after having so many bad experiences, Quest has been the safest I have ever felt, which is part of the reason why I play one of the characters that I do. Because if I didn't feel safe, she wouldn't be at the table.
When people say that they feel safe in QJ, it really means a lot, because that's literally the number one thing. Like, if I can't do that, then none of it's worth doing. I'm very thankful of that. Speaking of certain characters, that's a pretty good segue, I think. So before we go into any specific blue-haired Malkavians and such, what's your character creation process? Is there any, like, running themes with the characters that you make? Or is it a case of, for example, you try and every time it's like, okay, I want to do something new that I haven't done before, or I want to do something that's going to be a challenge?
So it varies from character to character. Like, it's not anything that's like specific. So my first couple of D&D characters, it was learning how to not put myself completely into the character, and that didn't happen in the first couple. My very first one that was part of a longer campaign, it didn't continue, fizzled out, there was some issues, etc., actually has made an appearance in Bredonia. But that particular character, which is Inari, if you guys remember the Battle Royale last year before Patrick moved, Inari was on the sidelines for Briar. So Inari was more of a self-insert character, which ended up being really hard for me to play in the first iteration that she was there, because there was too much of myself in there. And that was a learning experience for D&D because I hadn't been in that kind of situation. So every character you put a little bit of yourself into. Teddy we'll get to, but there are pieces that are part of me, and then there's different pieces that help make sure that that character isn't too much of myself, so I don't feel a certain type of way. Inari wasn't that way when she was built. There was too much of myself in that character, so eventually I would love to play Inari in a space where I can reformat a little bit, but not completely, or take it back to the beginning before she gets to the different spaces that she was, which I loved because that's pretty much where she was. She was going to the college. She was going for her School of Glamour. So that was fun. Different characters, Briar, for instance, is based off of Pinterest art. I saw the art on Pinterest and I thought that would be freaking cool to play a fairy fighter. And then I built her from there. D&D characters, it really just, a lot of it comes down from Pinterest art. Like, I will find a piece of artwork that I really think fits something or will trigger a thought process. And it's like, I haven't done that before. Let's build that. And then I will sit and build the character sheet before doing the backstory. The backstory's always last. I'll have an idea of how I want to build it before I detail who they are, if that makes sense.
I've done that a few times where, like, an entire character has been built based on a Pinterest pin that I've seen that's like, oh shit, that's cool. And then you just instantly hyper-focus it into a character. I've done that quite a few times, yeah. I
have a little old lady, her name is Granny. She is a gnome rogue who steals things. And
I remember this.
Yes. So, and it just came from this Pinterest. She looks like she should be a druid, but she's not, because she used to steal things from her siblings whenever they were little, and then she would get in trouble, and then they would be up on the breakfast plates the next morning. Like, she didn't actually intend to steal anything. She just wanted to play with them. Now she's an old lady that looks after all of the adventurers and has actually made an appearance in one of my gaming friends' home game. I was like, hey, do you have any characters that I could use? I was like, let me tell you about Granny so you can send her on an adventure. And she lives in this little retirement community and she takes care of the kids. And if they need somebody to help them out, she's the first one to go. So.
Did you just give me an idea for a Quest Junkies one-shot set in a retirement home for retired adventurers? I think you did.
Yes.
Oh god, that could be so fun. We'll talk on that another time.
Yes, please. Because that's been something that, like, has... since I've been here, DMing has been something, or like coming up with an idea for a hook or a story. And I know we'll get into me DMing for that, because that's a big thing.
Hell of a big thing. I'm very proud of you as well.
Oh.
We will get into the beautiful nerds of the AV Club soon. But first, let's head over to Bridget's table for Vampire the Masquerade. What was the inspiration behind Teddy? Like, what was that process like?
That process was Bridget. I don't even remember how. We were at a different vampire table, and it was the different clans. Like, we did like the quiz that Bridget had us do and things like that, and it was an idea, but she didn't get fully fleshed out until we got to Vegas. So, like, she had the very bare bones of a backstory. Teddy is a very special piece of me because as a neurospicy member of the mental health community, So I have a myriad of mental health disorders, and that was finding out that Vampire the Masquerade has something for a character that has mental health disabilities. Now, the way that I changed Teddy from myself is amping those up, because going from that transition of just having that struggle in real life and then becoming a vampire with hunger and things like that, those different diagnoses are going to inflame and exacerbate and become 100 times worse than somebody like in your day-to-day life. One of the biggest things that I wanted to do with Teddy is I wanted to help break down the stigma of bipolar disorder. Because as a bipolar girly, a lot of people don't realize that what you see in TV shows, what you see in media, is not how bipolar works. Yes, it is cyclical. Yes, it has those highs and it has those lows. But a lot of the time, you're high functioning. I did not know I was bipolar until I was 25. So I had been a mom for 4 years, but I didn't understand why I was so depressed and why I couldn't do things that I should be able to do. And people in my family didn't understand that there was that struggle. Like, they just said, oh, you're sad, or oh, it's not that. So I'm technically a bipolar 2. So there's 2 different versions of bipolar. There's bipolar 1, which is what Teddy has, which is the typical version that you see in media, but dialed up a little bit. Mine is more depression than it is the highs, where you get the real highs. The biggest things whenever I know that I'm manic is I'll overspend. I will do the shopping splurges, but it's manageable now. I've been in therapy now for over a decade, and meds and all of those things, and it gets easier. Mental health, it's a journey. It's not something that you decide, oh, I'm done now, I'm fully formed.
Yeah, it's a story that just keeps on going. You just keep on turning the page every day. Yeah. Yep.
And then, you get one diagnosis, and then 5 years later you get another diagnosis, and then you find the anxious bean, and then it's like, okay, well, which piece is feeding which piece? Because when I'm sad, the anxiety goes even further. When I'm up here, I'll do something stupid and the anxiety will hit. So it's like the myriad of mental health disorders decides to feed off of one another. So it's a constant juggling pattern of treating all of the different neuroses. And that's where Teddy came from. Teddy has a myriad of mental health diagnoses, and different ones that I don't actually have. Like, she has the schizophrenia, which can be a symptom of bipolar 1, but it's more, for her, she actually hears the different voices, which you've seen Nox and Onyx minimally. I would love to see those 2 pop up in future iterations of the vampire table. I'm excited to see where Bridget takes that, very much so. But having Bridget as a DM, and this goes back to Quest Junkies being safe, it is the safest place that I felt to play that kind of character. And then being at that particular table that we were at in Vegas was such an experience, and getting to give Teddy the platform that she deserves to actually address the different things that go on with mental health. And that's one of the biggest things for me as a player and as a DM, is I want to be able to take those nuanced conversations and actually put it at a table, but make sure that everybody at that table feels comfortable enough to engage in those kind of talks, which is where Teddy and Lucian's father-daughter dynamic, it just makes my heart so happy. And that was not planned.
No. And that's one of the joys of actual play as well. Like, the whole concept of collaborative storytelling. Like, the amount of times I see memes online, like, Critical Role is scripted. It has to be scripted. It's like, no. Because when you have a group of storytellers at a table together, they can weave a story together without actually speaking to each other, because they're on the same wavelength. We're sharing those brain cells.
Oh yeah, we do that.
We know where a story's going, and we can feed off that and act independently but cohesively at the same time. And it's one of the things that I love about it so much.
And finding the right table is the key, because you're not, and that's with any table, whether that's here at Quest Junkies, that's even when you look at the live action, like Critical Role or Dimension 20, the ones that do the best are those tables like Critical Role's main table, everybody knows how those players, they're always together. Sure, they throw in some wrenches and throw some new people in, and they have great tables, like Calamity. You have some of the regular Critical Role cast, you have some that have worked with Brennan before, you have some that are newer to that space. It worked really well because they knew those different dynamics. But also, when you look at Dimension 20, you have the Intrepid Heroes. Like, you know, those Intrepid Heroes know how to zigzag off of one another, and it's like, oh, hey, how can we screw up Brennan's day as much as possible? Which is one of my favorite things to do, especially at Phoenix's tables. I freaking love messing up his day as much as possible. It happens mostly on Friday nights, and I freaking love that pirate for what she does.
John is watching this video right now, and he's reaching over to a little dial, and he's turning the TPK dial up a notch.
Oh, I'm fully prepared of not making it through this Friday session, which, like, what is today so that we can air, and I'll come back and tell you if I lived. So today is Monday the 23rd. So this Friday, I'm playing Erin in Candlekeep. She has 50 hit points. This girl normally has like 130. We're down to 50. I fully do not intend to make it out of this session alive. Like, I'm fully prepared that I'm going to die. Will it suck? Yes, because I really haven't had a character death that has been... Now, Cybervamp is different, but, like, I haven't had a D&D character death that I have played the character more than once. I've had them in, like, one-shots where somebody's died, but, like, a campaign character, I have never had a campaign character death. And I'm not prepared, but I'm also prepared. Like, I fully am aware that I'm probably going to die.
I mean, as someone who was part of Phoenix's first TPK,
yeah,
I can tell you, no matter what you do, you won't be prepared. If it happens, it's going to hurt.
I think I have 3 spell slots and 50 HP, and yeah.
In the immortal words of Abria Iyengar, the only hit point that matters is the last one.
True.
You know, as long as you've got that last one, you're still up and running. You've played Teddy a couple of times now. We had the Bad and the Beautiful, the Vegas table. We've had the first iteration of Cybervamp. If you were to think about your time at both of those tables, is there like a particular moment that stands out? Like a specific moment which, more than anything, it was like a core memory unlock?
There was 2 at the Cybervamp table, specifically. Because we go with the funny one from Bad and the Beautiful. Teddy throwing the pencil at Joey. It's a core memory for Teddy because it gives you that, yes, she's not going to put up with your shit. 2, she's kind of funny. Which I don't know how that works because I don't think I'm that funny, but Teddy's funny.
You're hilarious.
I like to think I'm hilarious. Talon doesn't seem to think so, but I think I'm hilarious. And then the 2 for Cybervamp was when the body swap happened. And I thought Teddy died before I found out that she went to Oblivion. Because Bridget DM'd me and I was almost in tears. If you remember, I had already had an anxiety attack that day. And it was one of those moments where life bled into art, which is part of the reason why Teddy is designed the way that she is with the anxiety. Because if I'm anxious, that gives me a way to put that into that character where it makes sense, where I'm not doing a disservice to her because it fits. But that moment where Teddy watched Lucian kill the lookalike of her and how she reacted is one of my proudest RP moments ever. And then the second core memory from that campaign is when Lucian got her out of Oblivion. Everybody coming after her, but knowing that Lucian put everything on the line to get her back, especially with everything she's been through, that is the moment where she knew, okay, we've been through a lot already, but the fact that you would willingly come to where we are for death to come get me, that's love. That's somebody that actually gives a shit.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks after his girls no matter what the circumstance, and
he does.
You know, I can say from my perspective that was the same deal for Lucian. That was a core memory.
I don't know if I posted the last couple of episodes in the my detailed notes are extensive. There are pages of notes because as the vampire table note taker, I have theories. I am Charlie Day with the red strings on the board. That is me at all times.
At some point, we need to get you a board for your backdrop.
We really should.
Yeah,
especially
and you can
for,
just
like,
have it all on there. Let's do it.
That would be so much fun. I have the calendar board. I could probably just turn it into just the red string of theory.
That's our homework.
Because there's that notebook. I'm going to need another notebook before, like, moving on. Because each character gets their own notebook. So Teddy has her own specific, like, these are all of Teddy's notes. Inari has her notebook of all of the notes that she is. Now, because I'm in 2 campaigns at Phoenix Iwaki, they're all in one notebook. So Amaris and Aaron's notes are all in one notebook. So it's a good time.
Do you have any, like, pre-game rituals or habits before a session?
Okay. Yes. Every D20 has to be on the 20. It cannot.
I do the same thing.
Be on anything besides the 20. And I will, before every session, depending on which character. So there are certain characters that I have played that have like a specific set of dice. So they are specific. Those are the ones that get used for that particular character. Now, for like Vampire, where it's a dice pool, I will roll every single D10 that I have, each of them 3 times. So if you fail more than you succeed, you get pushed aside unless I need a bigger dice pool. If you consistently roll 10s, you get put into the good side. If you're middle of the road, you get put into the middle of the road pile, and I will pick the good ones in the middle of the roads. And then depending on how big of a dice pool I need for technology, I need all of my D10s, so they all just get smashed. It's an important roll, and if the bad dice don't cooperate, they go into dice jail. So it's a process. And then when they have failed consistently, so if a dice has ever rolled more than one nat 1 in a session, it then gets put on a selenite, which is a cleansing crystal. So it gets put on a selenite plate, and it's like, okay, you sit there. You need some bad juju removed. And then, like, once it's been done and it's time for the next session, I pick it up off the plate, and I'm like, okay, now we're going to do, you gotta talk nice to them after you cleanse them.
So there is more to you in the Quest Junkie story than just the blue-haired Malkavian tales.
Yeah.
Because it's not too long ago, actually, you took the GM seat for the first time.
For the very first time, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about Kids on Bikes.
So initially when the lockdown happened, I thought about the idea of running D&D for Talon because I thought it would be a good idea for like him and his friends because we were in lockdown. They weren't seeing each other at school. And I got the Ghosts of Saltmarsh or Pirates of Saltmarsh or whatever that one's called. Like I have that module and I was trying to wrap my head around running a game of D&D. The way my brain works, the mechanics of D&D does not function. Like, I cannot sit and process how, I don't know how you and Brennan and Matt and Bria and all of you crazy D&D GMs, I don't understand how your brains work. So, I saw, whenever Bria first brought Misfits and Magic to the Dome, I was like, oh, I like that. Because it's mostly story-based. So Kids on Bikes is one of those systems where you use every single dice. So every single dice that's right there, all of them get assigned to a stat. You have your D20 as your best stat, all the way down to the, don't ask me to do this, it's probably not going to be great on your D4. And it works. And then something Abria did was the adversity tokens, because we don't believe in failing. Like, we can use those adversity tokens. Like, yeah, it's going to tell a story. Yeah, that fail is going to be maybe not as bad if you use your adversity tokens. And that was something I really wanted to bring into it, because the whole point of Kids on Bikes is telling that story, telling a piece of the puzzle. And I was very blessed with the AB kids and the people that were at that table. You, Bridget, C, and Aylin could not have been a better first table for me to run. And I had not intended on it going any further than the 3 to 4 session arc. It was supposed to be 3, and then you guys created 4, so, it is what it is. But hadn't intended on it. Like, I remember asking you to record it just because I wanted to be able to go back and watch it for myself to figure out what I could do as far as telling a story better. Like, what pieces do I need to work on better? And well, we wrapped that first session and all of you were like, can we release this? And I'm like, what?
I'm pretty sure I remember when I reviewed the footage to edit it, because the AV Club is in the editing stages right now and we'll be releasing very, very soon. It was the break of the first session. As soon as we went on bio break, I was like,
yeah.
So we're releasing this, right, Maddie? We're releasing this.
As soon as you guys said that, I was like, I had no idea that it was something worth releasing. I had not intended on it being anything. I was like, this is my first go round. Like, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be anything that, like, there's going to be things that I need to work on. And then the four of you were literally just magic. The way that all of the characters were intertwined. And that's one of the things I love about Kids on Bikes is in your session 0, you ask questions, whether you like that person, you dislike that person, or you feel indifferent about them. And you create those connections that give you a better way of actually connecting and storytelling with everybody. And when you asked me, hey, can you send me those questions? I'm putting that into the next campaign. We're gonna use it. I was like, I did something that is impactful to Quest Junkies. What is this? And then you guys compliment my DM skills, and I'm like, I don't deserve this. Please stop. I'm very bad at taking compliments to begin with. I think it was Aylin last week, or one of the times me, and Aylin and Bridget were all together, and Aylin said that I was one of their favorite DMs, and I was like, what? No.
If we're going to be brutally honest about this, I have been mostly a forever DM. I don't get the chance often to play.
True.
So I'm always enthusiastic about getting the chance to play. But just to show the effect that the AV Club had on me specifically, Kids on Bikes became one of my favorite systems about 10 minutes in, because I realized that it's such a flexible TTRPG system. Shout out to Hunters Entertainment for making a great system. Like,
yes,
you can reskin Kids on Bikes to be about anything. And it's at its best when you're telling like low risk stories, things like D&D and Pathfinder, Cyberpunk in particular. It's always high risk. There's so many mechanics to learn. You've got all this and this. And it's a lot to keep in your mind. It can be really intimidating. Kids on Bikes, you have your stats and the story is presented to you. That's pretty much it. And you have the freedom to be able to go and explore. We were playing a bunch of kids from the 80s, and then we were dealing with the concepts of, in a fantasy world, ice cream could actually be molten lava for all we know, and how, having like a 20-minute conversation about that.
Yeah,
in a game.
The biggest thing was just how often we would, because all of us are neurospicy at that table in some way, shape, or form, the tangents and the fun facts that we did. And I love that is something that, regardless, every single session, we had new fun facts, or it would get spurt into the RP moments where it was just like, hey, did you know this? Or hey, did you know that? I learned so much at that, just watching you guys. And that was the biggest thing about actually running that table, was I basically laid very little groundwork for you guys, because that was one of the things, like, I knew if I planned too much because of me being a perfectionist, I was going to get in my head and I would get locked up and I wouldn't know what to do to continue. So I had bare bones of what I wanted to tell, what beats in this fantasy world I wanted you guys to hit. The fact that you took, what was it, like a half hour, 40 minutes at the very first decision that you had to make, where you had to pick left or right at a T on a road. They literally sat there for 30 minutes and I'm like, okay, it really doesn't matter which way you decide to choose. I have things either way, but like, I know where you're going, so pick one. But no, they wouldn't pick something. So I even had a little satyr come up and try to help them with directions, and they still wouldn't do anything. And I was just like, okay. And then nobody noticed that it was a satyr because they all failed their the equivalent of a perception check. Every single one of them failed and got their first adversity tokens because they had little tiny goat horns on the top. Remember, I'm reading Percy Jackson at this point in time. A freaking satyr showed up and they had no idea. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's actually a golden rule that I learned when learning how to DM. Because when I started, I prepared everything. I prepared every detail of every possibility. I tried to anticipate every scenario and have a plan for it. And I quickly learned that is setting yourself up for a gigantic failure. Like nowadays, I prepare so little. If people knew how little I prepared, they'd ask questions.
Well, that's what we went into the live show for Pride Week. I had nothing. I knew we were going into a haunted house. I had no idea what shenanigans you were going to do. I planned absolutely nothing, and that was the very first time I ever did anything live. Because the AV Club, up to that point, had been pre-recorded. If I plan too much for a live show, I am not going to be able to get through this. Point blank, period. No idea. All I knew was that Bridget wanted a seance with a freaking Ouija board, and Maddie says, no fucking Ouija boards, ever. Stay away from the Ouija boards, but Lucky's gonna do what Lucky gonna do, so you do you, boo. And then C said that he wanted Twiggy to scare Isaac. So that was the 3 older kids are gonna go to the haunted house, Twiggy's gonna be sneaking up, and that's how it's gonna go. From there, it is what it is, and I apparently invented time travel, so that was a thing.
Yeah, that was like, because I was aware that there wasn't a planned specific structure for it.
Correct. I did,
but
because I was like, I don't know how.
I figured that like the end game was planned.
Nope.
Did I expect it to be the concept of time travel and such? Nope. Like you can probably see when you look back on that live stream, the surprise on my face. I'm like, and then like Isaac being like, no. Oh God, this has so many complications. The butterfly effect. I've seen so many episodes of Doctor Who. I know this is a bad idea.
Yeah, because that's one of the biggest things that we do try to do with the AV Club is we do try to keep our media references to things that would have aired at that point in time. So half the time you'll see us, we're like, there will have been a break, and it was because we were looking up something to make sure, wait, did this come out before 88?
That's been fun as well, because we've rediscovered things from like the 80s that we forgot about that we absolutely loved as well.
Out of my TTRPG career currently, I would say the 2 greatest joys that I have had is playing Teddy and running the AV Club. Those are the proudest things that I have done. I wouldn't have jumped in that DM seat if it wasn't for you, because you have been a forever DM, and I wanted to give both you and Bridget, specifically, the opportunity to not have to run the game, to play at a table. And then the topics that we get into with Kids on Bikes, I feel very privileged that y'all feel very safe, that my table is a space where you guys can also handle the certain topics that you do, like Isaac's anxiety and your imposter syndrome. And I know how much Isaac is a mini-ish version of Patch, so...
Yeah, it's just me with a bad American accent, so me whenever I'm RPing as Modius, just as a teenager. That's it, Isaac is teenage Asmodeus.
Yeah, we'll bet.
Now you understand my backstory. That's why I'm the devil.
That's why I am the way I am. Was it a phase bomb?
Let's change things up a little bit. What does storytelling mean to you?
Oh God, that's a great question. It depends on the medium. So, in the space of the TTRPG space, it is a collaborative story. It's something where you're taking those bare bones of what your DM, GM, Lightkeeper are giving you. Running Kids on Bikes and playing at the Candela tables that I have, and I'm very excited for the next Candela table that I get to be at. Of those stories, it is building a character that's worth telling a story, that fits with everybody else that's there. Which is one of the reasons I think I love Kids on Bikes and Candela as much as I do. Like, I found, and Vampire, of course, because they're not as mechanic heavy if that makes sense. Those 3 systems in particular specifically focus on the act of telling that story, whether it is the leads from the DM or picking up on those pieces from your character that you found. That it's about building those relationships, whether it's between an NPC, a player character, a backstory character. Teddy has her sire that she absolutely hates, but then she has Lucian that is like her dad, and then you have Kitty that Scarlett plays that is like her new mom. And then you have Mai, who had Evelyn, where it's like, okay, you're the antagonist of this entire group. And then you have Joey, which is, hey, wait, do I know how to like people? Like that started her on that journey of okay, maybe I like people. Like, do I like people? Do I know how to like people? I don't know what I'm doing. Teddy's an idiot. I love her but she is an idiot. Like, especially when it comes to interpersonal relationships, it takes her forever to get there. And then you sit at the DM seat, and it's like, okay, well, how do I give these characters leads that are worth telling a story? Or how do I intrigue them enough to pick up this breadcrumb that I've laid down here? And I didn't think I did a great job at it until you guys came back at the break and are like, oh, hey, no, can we do this? Like, can we record everything? And I was like, if you guys think it's worth telling, yeah, absolutely. Knowing that I'm telling a story or being a part of a story that actually means something to somebody else or tells something that resonates with somebody, whether that's me or being part of a community that tells those awesome epic stories, because you and Bridget are some fantastic storytellers along with Sky. Like, you guys have told some fantastic stories, and Bree, there's nothing like Quest Junkies. There's nothing like the tables that we put together here, or the one-shots, or the fun little anecdotes that we do, or just this community is very special in all aspects. And based off of that alone, the storytelling that comes from it is because we have an awesome, ever humble dungeon master who gave us the strength and the motivation and the ability to help him tell some epic stories.
Yeah, he's alright.
No. You want to sing my praises? I can do that right back at you, buddy. Like,
shucks, that's incredibly sweet of you. I'm very proud of what we've built together. You've been a big part of that as well. You've helped me with the organizational aspects behind the scenes as well, which has been well needed and incredibly resourceful. So I'm very thankful of you being part of the QJ family. So thank you.
That's what a secretary does. Then make your life a little easier.
That's what a vamp daughter does.
That is true.
Is there anything, like, as a creator, whether it be GMing or even like for writing, for example, you can't create without, like, is there like a certain notebook for a certain character, or like, you know, I talked about in the last one, like there's certain things I have to have on my desk and things, like, if you got any quick little things like that? When
it comes to writing, there are very specific things that I have to have. Or when I'm reading and annotating, there are very specific things, which ironically I have a book and writing utensils right here. This pen in particular, because of the point. Like, do you see that point?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so fine. I have 3 different boxes of these pens waiting because I have to have these particular ones. And then these zebra midliner pens, because they have the short little, like, you can write on it end. And then they have the chiseled, like, the line where you can actually, like, highlight. But these are the only ones I use because they don't bleed through pens, or they don't bleed through pages. And then annotating tabs is my reading stuff. Now, as far as D&D goes, I have to have the certain dice for the character that I'm playing. I have to have a pop, preferably a Dr. Pepper. There will be 2 at all times. I don't know if anybody's noticed how much I drink Dr. Pepper, but I do. It is never anything but Dr. Pepper when I'm playing a game. Even if I'm in my water bottle, there's a Dr. Pepper in that water bottle. Don't be fooled, it is not water. The Dr. Pepper and cream soda is my favorite. The coconut one is not bad, but it's not the cream soda version. Regular Dr. Pepper. The strawberry and cream one is not good.
Oh,
don't try that one.
No.
It's not good. I know. That's why I'm telling you, don't try it. It's gross.
So, we've looked back at your story from the beginning to now. Let's look forward. What are you most excited for in your creative journey in the days to come? Like, whether it be QJ related or more personal, like with your YouTube, like any milestones or any aspirations specifically that you want to hit?
So we'll do both, because there are some things that I would like to do. Quest Junkies related and BookTube related. As far as Quest Junkies goes, I would love to bring the AV kids back. I'm very excited to continue with that arc, even if they are just like the mini adventures, like as we go, and then like it's still a long-term thing. But like the next mini arc, I would love to do that. And one of the biggest things, I know we've talked about this because of how mental health is very personal to me. I would love to do Kids on Bikes for a fundraising thing for mental health awareness, like because all of our kids are neurospicy. Even at that table, like the kids are neurospicy or deal with some specific mental health situation. And I think that would fit great for that. And I know a lot of us are also passionate about the mental health organizations and stuff like that. I would love to help get you to being a full-time DM, however we can manage that. Like that is still a Quest Junkies goal. Like it's something that I'm actively like trying to help figure a way to make that happen. Like that's what I'm a secretary. I want to make your dreams come true just as much as my dreams. So like we'll figure it out. As far as BookTube goes, like I'm still very new. Like I created the channel at the end of last year and then didn't post anything until July. Like it was 6 months, didn't do anything with it. I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna post this first video and it makes that page not blank, but I have no editing skills. Like I have no way to make that happen. So without you and Bridget, who have been fantastic at helping me get this thing off of the ground. Bridget did the first couple of videos that got posted. And then Vamp Daddy over here, he's like, hey. And I was like, hey, you're doing freelance stuff, right? You wanna help a Vamp daughter out? Win-win situation here.
It is, again, one of the things that a community like ours is best for. It's not just a place where we make content for QJ. It's a community. It's a place for us to come together and help each other with projects because we're all creatives. We've all got our little side gigs. You know, eventually, if I have the time and the brain cells, I'd love to bring back my really shit film review series.
Oh, I loved those. I even went back and watched those. Like, I love watching your stuff. So I enjoy it because, especially for our community, because everybody, like Sky runs her YouTube channel, and it's great because it makes Critical Role more palatable for me because I have the same off-the-wall opinion as I'm not a big critter. Do I enjoy, like, I've watched Vox Machina. I love watching the cartoon version of Vox Machina. I'm super excited for the next season to come out. But, like, trying to listen to the podcasts or trying to watch the YouTube videos for Critical Role, I can't. I will sit there and I will be, like, scrolling my phone and not paying attention and things like that. Whereas Dimension 20, because each episode is maybe 2 hours, it's not constantly a combat 2 episodes in a row or something like that. It is, you get an RP episode, you get a combat session, then you get an RP session, and each combat session makes sense in that story. And the way that Brennan tells the stories, it just fits better with my brain and how my brain operates. Now, Matt is fantastic at what he does, but I'm a D20 girl through and through. I love seeing the resurgence of the tabletop community and how, even though most of it happened because of lockdown, like that's how everything started getting bigger, to see how it has come about and how the different TTRPG communities running on Twitch, not just us, but like our stream teams that we raid into, or the friends that we've made along the way, like seeing how everybody has created these different communities and how everybody recognizes we've got great voice actors, we've got great actors, we've got great up-and-comers, storytellers. Like, seeing those creatives get to the level that we are getting to, whether that's our little community, bigger communities, it's getting renowned. And it's so cool to be a part of that experience. D&D saved my life because during lockdown, I was in between therapists. I was not able to get my meds the way that I was supposed to. So I was literally with a 10-year-old who needed help with school. I'm working from home. I don't know how to balance. I don't know how to cook. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But the people that I built around this, that I built into the D&D community, it saved my life. It kept me sane. I probably would not be here in the same version of the Maddie that you see here. Would not be the same version if I had not found D&D.
I can relate to that more than you know. Because similarly, when lockdown happened, I lost my creative passion, which was being a musician. I had been a musician since I was 4 years old. I was just turning 30 before the pandemic. And I couldn't do that anymore. And
yeah.
I was working in healthcare, as I still do, through the pandemic, which is, as you can imagine, it was fucking awful. And I got to a point where the only thing that was giving me joy was being creative, and I couldn't be creative anymore. And day in, day out, my journey was going to work, being terrified I would get COVID and die. Coming home from work, being terrified I was bringing COVID home to kill my family. Go to bed. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat.
Yep.
I had nothing, and I hit such a rock bottom. D&D came in because it was the only thing me and my friends could do over Discord to be social. And it opened up a very unexpected creative avenue from me. Did it save my life? 100% without doubt. I know my mind. I know where I was heading. And I didn't get there. Ultimately, I'm now here. And I have this community. And despite having my ups and downs up here, that I still have, I've had burnout for a good 12 months. 18 months, maybe?
At least.
Yeah, but I just work through it. The difference now is I know that I have this almost like a comfort blanket that is a little QJs that keep me going. And despite how low I get at times, it's anywhere near as dark as it used to be. And I hope it never ends, because I don't want to lose that.
You know, I'm here for the long haul, and I'll make sure that you don't have to give it up. But it's one of those things that, on the record, where people could actually see this, I'm proud of you for actually learning how to ask for help when you need it. Because I know that that's one of the things that led to a lot of your burnout to begin with, was because you were trying to take so much on and weren't asking for the help that you needed. But you've since, like, everybody has those growth spurts where they have to figure out, okay, well, I know I want to do this, but I don't know how. I want to make YouTube content. I don't know how to edit my videos. Hey, Patch, help me out. You have scheduling conflicts sometimes, and you forget to update the Google Calendar. I yell at him all the time whenever he forgets to update the Google Calendar.
Can confirm.
But that's what the team is for. Like, whether it is your players helping with making sure that attendance isn't an issue, or whether it is figuring out what days we can play, especially with us moving to pre-records now, like, that's going to be another huge thing that's off of the scheduling conflict issues. Like, we're all working to help make QJ sustainable long term. Like, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's Bridget, whether it's players, whether it's Bree coming back for Stradalicious, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're all trying to do those different things to make sure that everything continues, because this is home. I've been through some good ones. I've been through some okay. I've been through some bad. I've never found a place that truly felt like home until I found Quest Junkies. And because of you, I get to be creative and actually do the things that I think about doing, instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to do this someday. No, I'm currently creating book content on a regular.
I really appreciate those very, very kind words.
Well, it's all true, so I can't tell you lies.
True.
You can tell when I'm lying and it doesn't go well.
So, before we fully wrap up here, is there like a final like message or a parting word that you want people to think about going away from watching this? Like, whether it be advice or just, your take on something. Final thoughts.
Be picky about what tables you're at. You trust your gut. If you think it's not a good situation, get out. It will suck in the short term, but you'll land where you're supposed to land. Be picky about who you support. When you do find those tables that make you feel like home, be authentic. Create characters that are true to who you are, because those characters are going to be the ones that have the best story. I'm very lucky to have found a place that accepts me and all of my crazy neurospiciness and mental health issues, and still accepts me for who I am. And I am so very thankful, and I hope that anybody watching this finds those same safe spaces, whether it's here at Quest Junkies or somewhere else that makes them feel just as safe. But no matter what, you are not alone. Reach out for help when you need it. And there's always another page to turn.
Beautiful stuff. I couldn't put that any better, even if I tried. Well, thank you so much, my dear friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Please let the world know where we can find you and support your creative endeavors outside of QJ.
I'm here on the YouTube at Maddie's Bookshelf, where I create bookish content and tell different talk about books, all those crazy things. I have a pretty cute Pomsky who managed to not pop up the entire time. Cora the Explorer shows up in the YouTube video content all of the time. I'm also a regular over on Phoenix Awaki every other Friday for Candlekeep Mysteries, where I play a crazy redheaded pirate, a cleric fighter. She's kind of a badass. The following week, whenever Patch isn't playing on Chacentas, like we flip Fridays, and then on Sundays for Tomb of Annihilation, we do that. And then we have the AV Club coming out. I'm pretty excited about that finally getting released. I'm really bad at outros. I've tried. I can't do it like you guys. Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
You know what? Me neither, but that's what it's all about. So thank you, my dear friend, for participating in QuestCast. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I hope you've all enjoyed it at home. So all the love to you guys at home. And I guess if there's anything else left to say, keep questing, QJs. Goodbye.
Bye.